Hey, good evening, everyone. Way 31 Storm Tracker Chief Meteorologist Jeff Castle here, doing a little Facebook Live Q&A, talking about Francine and the expected impacts around here. First thing I'm going to check, and if some of you could just let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Okay, I want to make sure that we have the audio going. It does look like we have the video up and running. So if some of you would just comment if you are able to hear me, and that will let me know if we are good to go. Of course, I could always check myself here on Facebook to see if the audio is up and running. Well, it looks like something's happening because I'm seeing captioning. So if Facebook could not hear me talking, then that would not be happening. All right, appreciate you all tuning in this evening. We'll give this a few more minutes for some other folks to get on. Of course, tomorrow, a 31 alert day. We've been talking about this really since the end of the weekend about tropical development in the Gulf and the likelihood that we were going to get some impacts here in the Tennessee Valley, and we are now just less than 24 hours out, in fact 12 hours out from starting to see some rain coming on in. So over the next little bit, I'm going to be going through some of the latest information, what we expect impact-wise around here, and hopefully that will cover most of the bases. But if you do have some questions, you can always ask those in the comments. And I'll be checking those here towards the end. We're kind of streaming in a couple different places on my Meteorologist Jeff Castle Facebook page, on the Way 31 TV Facebook page, and also on YouTube on the Way 31 channel. And I'll try to get to as many of those questions as possible as we go through here. All right, first up, let's talk about what we've got going on with Francine. So this is the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, which we will continue to get actually fairly frequent updates on this now that it is moving inland. Most of the time we get those on an hourly basis, at least here during the short term after landfall. Landfall did happen around 5 o'clock or so this afternoon. Terrebonne Parish in southern Louisiana is where the eye of Francine came on shore. It is going to be tracking the center of the storm very close to New Orleans. Of course, they already have impacts there. Rain and wind will be the biggest concerns. Areas immediately along the coast, of course, is where we have that storm surge. Haven't gotten any reports yet as to how significant that has been, but that is always a concern when these systems move in off the ocean and onto land. This is the update. Likely this is a 7 p.m. update. The winds are coming down. When it made landfall, it was a Category 2 storm, 100-mile-per-hour sustained winds. Those dropped during the first hour to 90. Here at the 7 o'clock update, those winds are now down to 85 miles per hour. The storm itself moving northeast at 17, and the barometric pressure, as you would expect, now that it's weakening, that is starting to go back up. But it is still packing quite a punch as it moves in across southern portions of Louisiana. All right, here's the latest track, and we talked about this the last few days, that the Tennessee Valley, in fact the entire state of Alabama, on what we call the dirty side of an inland tracking tropical system, and that is basically areas to the east of where the center of circulation is going to go. So that is why we're expecting bigger impacts here across Alabama than areas to the west. I know I still have quite a few folks that follow me out in the Arklatex. Good news for you, which you were impacted by Beryl at the beginning of July. This storm well east, and your impacts minimal, in fact almost no impacts, as you head to the west of where the center is going on through across western Louisiana back into East Texas. This is the latest track, though. This is the update that we got at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We will get another track update coming up at 10 o'clock tonight. So if you come in and you watch our late local news at 10, we will have the newest information on the track from the National Hurricane Center. But really at this point in time, I don't think there'll be any sort of significant changes. The latest update, by 1 o'clock in the morning, it is expected to be downgraded to a tropical storm. So winds will be below hurricane force at that point as it's beginning to cross from Louisiana into southwestern Mississippi. By the time we hit tomorrow afternoon around 1 o'clock on Thursday, this will just be a tropical depression, winds down to 35, and it'll continue to weaken as it tracks north. Center of circulation could go very close to Memphis, and then it just kind of dies out here over the Mississippi and Ohio River Valley, basically where those two big rivers come together there in southeastern Missouri and into southern Illinois and northwestern Kentucky. And because it's going to stay kind of in the area for a few days, there's going to be continued impacts around here. But again, we remain on the east side of the storm, which is where the weather tends to be worse as these systems track on in. So let's kind of talk about some of the expected impacts and what we will likely see out of this before it is all said and done. And I'll kind of summarize these, but then I'll get into a little bit more detailed information as we go along here. Three main things that we get out of these systems when they do track just to the west. We get wind, we get rain, and we get that possibility for severe weather. Winds that we're looking at for Thursday, 20 to 30 miles per hour. Those will be sustained winds. They'll start to pick up first thing tomorrow morning. Likely they'll reach a peak sometime around mid-afternoon tomorrow. And then as Francine continues to weaken and slowly pulls away from us, those winds should begin to let up towards the end of the day tomorrow. But at the peak, sustained at 20 to 30, and we could have gusts above 40 at times. Got time this evening to go out and secure the patio furniture, bring the trash can either in the garage or at least closer to the house. Those are the sort of things that are going to be blown around in these sort of winds. We may also have some problems with some tree limbs down. Good news is we've been in a drought. I know that's not always good news, but the fact that we don't already have a lot of moisture in the soil means that these winds will have a little bit tougher time bringing down healthy trees. Now, if you have some unhealthy trees, then you can expect some limbs to come down off of those and maybe even some trees to fall. So that could cause some problems out there, some damage to some structures, and could also result in some power outages, particularly if you are in an area that's prone to seeing the power go out when the wind picks up. So that's the wind part of it. How much rain are we talking about? For a lot of us, it's going to be 1 to 3 inches over the next couple of days, and then we'll probably add some more to that over the course of the weekend. However, as I'm going to go through the forecast here with future radar, there is the potential that we could see some spots localized ½ a foot of rainfall. Not likely to be widespread. That will likely be confined to a fairly narrow area, but I'll talk about what will be the setup for that. And again, the severe weather potential, and this is the one that gets a lot of people concerned, is that these storms, as they come inland, create a favorable, what we call a wind shear profile in the lower part of the atmosphere that makes it somewhat easier for tornadoes to spin up. Now, in most cases, these are not your spring type of tornadoes. These are not going to be strong tornadoes. These are not going to be long-lived tornadoes. They are going to be brief areas of rotation that develop in some of the heavier showers and embedded thunderstorm activity that can touch down and do some damage. But again, typically they're not long-lasting. Maybe something that just develops, quickly touches down, and then is gone. If we get some tornado warnings out of this tomorrow, for the most part, they're probably only going to be issued for 15 to 30-minute increments, because that's typically the case with these tropical type of tornadoes. But again, that will remain a possibility. But as we go along here, I'm going to talk about what are some of the limiting factors as to why the tornado risk is not quite as substantial around here as it might otherwise be, certainly this time of year where we're still talking about summer heat, perhaps. We've certainly had some of that the last couple days. So let's kind of break down the severe weather outlook first. And of course, this is issued by the Storm Prediction Center in conjunction with the forecast of where the storm's going to go from the National Hurricane Center. This is that severe weather outlook for tomorrow. We're on a level 1 or 2 on a scale of 1 to 5, so at least we're not way up here. Typically, this is the case with tropical systems, is the severe weather risk typically is down at the lower end of the scale. Area in yellow, that's a level 2 risk. Doesn't quite include much of North Alabama. A little bit of Coleman County, a little bit of Blount County, and that's it. Primarily, that threat's going to be confined a little bit more down towards Birmingham, perhaps Montgomery, Dothan, into the Florida Panhandle. But we do remain across much of the area in a level 1 on a scale of 1 to 5 risk for seeing severe weather. And again, in this sort of setup, we've already got the strong wind that's going to be coming in just due to the wind down of the circulation of Francine. This severe weather risk is primarily in the form for those isolated, brief, spin-up type of tornadoes that can quickly develop but also tend to quickly go away. So we are going to be watching that for tomorrow. And I do want to add, we have been put now also and a low-end severe weather risk on Friday. Let me see if I can find that real quick, and we'll show you what that looks like. And this may not be updated on in the graphic. So this should say Friday, not Saturday. I've not updated this particular graphic. But this is a severe weather risk for Friday. Still includes us, still a low risk, level 1 on that scale of 1 to 5. But once again, looks like we may have to monitor some storm activity Friday. That may also pose a risk for an isolated spin-up type tornado and perhaps some strong gusty wind as well at that point in time. All right, let me take you through the forecast here. I'm going to show you a couple different models. Keep in mind we use these computer models. They take all the math and the physics that describe how the atmosphere changes with time, and they go through all these calculations and kind of paint a picture of what the atmosphere may look like, what sort of state it's going to be in the future. And as we look at this, we interpret it based on the information that it's providing and make the forecast detailed about that. No problems this evening. We got the clouds sticking up. That's about it. We don't really even have a whole lot of wind yet. Let me take you into tomorrow morning. We'll stop this around 7:30 in the morning. Likely beginning to see the rain really start to get steady and widespread across the area. Maybe a few pockets of some moderate downpours. So for the commute tomorrow morning, for those of you headed out to work early, plan on wet roadways, slower drive in, all that good stuff. In addition, the wind will start picking up. We'll get into that part of the forecast here after I take you through what we've got going on here with future radar. March you towards lunchtime tomorrow, early afternoon. Notice there are some bands and some pockets of heavier rain activity coming on in. A lot of this will be around and west of I-65. So although we'll be kind of in and out of the rainfall to the east, maybe not quite as widespread and heavy as what we'll see in some areas out here towards northwestern parts of Alabama as well as into the shoals. We head into the afternoon hours, and this is when we start to watch for that potential for some stronger showers and thunder showers that are going to bring that severe weather risk. And what we're seeing kind of consistent here with a lot of the data is there's going to be some sort of band that'll be narrow of heavier downpours and maybe a few embedded thunderstorms. It's going to set up somewhere in North Alabama, and this will actually extend farther south through the state, but kind of getting its beginnings around here as far as the northern extent of this. And this is just what one piece of data says around 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. That band stretching around the I-65 corridor, maybe back into the northwest corner of the state, down I-65 and into parts of central and north central Alabama. This again is where we would see that potential for those spin-up type of tornadoes. That's going to be within this band. This band is also where it persists, where we could see some of those higher rain amounts. I'll move this back forward. We'll take you to around 8 o'clock in the evening. That band has moved a little bit, kind of off the I-65 corridor and covering much of the northeastern corner of the state, maybe from Huntsville to Scottsboro, Gunnersville, Albertville, towards Rainsville, Fort Payne, down to Gadsden. That's likely where it'll be at this point in time. Question is, are we still going to have a tornado threat at this point in time? It is a possibility that that may continue to be the case. We'll move you forward here. We take you into the overnight hours. Notice we have this persistent band of heavier tropical downpours. So again, this could lead itself to some fairly significant rainfall totals in localized spots. Friday morning, 8 o'clock, still have a band of heavier downpours here. This is going to continue even on into Friday afternoon, and again, perhaps pose a risk for seeing some additional severe weather potential. Let's talk rainfall first, and we'll also talk about the winds. In fact, let me talk about that, the wind amounts as well. These are forecast wind gusts around 25-30 miles per hour, 7 o'clock in the morning. Again, we expect the winds to peak heading into probably the mid-afternoon hours. We'll stop this around 3 o'clock. And you can see quite a few locations here in North Alabama in particular. Winds may be gusting around 40 miles per hour or perhaps a little bit higher. So this is when we expect those winds to be at a peak. And then as we work our way on into tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, we'll stop this around 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. Notice those winds are really starting to drop off in some areas. May still stay elevated here over Sand Mountain for a little while into Thursday evening, but you can see the general downward trend for the rest of the area. So again, that potential for strongest wind coming in tomorrow afternoon may be lasting into the evening for portions of North Alabama. All right, quick look at the rainfall. And keep in mind what I mentioned about where we get these persistent bands of heavier showers and embedded thunderstorms. In general, we're looking at probably 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. I think that's going to be a pretty good bet. Some 3-inch totals, maybe back out here towards the Mississippi border. But notice the higher numbers that we have here. Wherever those stronger bands are going to set up, and they're going to persist, which means it's going to rain hard for a while. Or maybe you get some heavy rain and then it goes away, but then you get another batch that comes through. That's really going to add up. And so there is the possibility through Friday morning that there could be a narrow strip across parts of Middle Tennessee and northern Alabama where we could easily see some locations pick up half a foot of rain. That is certainly a possibility. All right, let's talk a little bit about the severe weather potential and what the limiting factors are. Like I said, these systems, when they come in, they produce a lot of low-level wind shear. That is consistent in all the data I've been looking at. It's a lot of low-level wind shear. In fact, a lot. Let me just say that. But keep in mind, these are the 4 main severe weather ingredients. The wind shear, how much lift, basically what's coming along. In this case, we've got the tropical system providing the lift across the area. Instability is basically how unstable the atmosphere is. How conducive is it for air to rise from the ground higher up into the sky? And a couple things play into that. Some energy involved, also how the temperature is expected to change with height. The steeper that is, the steeper the change is as you go up in height, that creates kind of an unstable situation for us. And of course, moisture feeds into this as well. Lots of tropical moisture, that's not an issue. It's this instability part, which is the question mark. The data, it continues to be consistent. The atmosphere will not be particularly unstable, which may mean we may have a difficult time getting strong storms going. And when we refer to that, we talk about the updraft. How quickly is the air rising? And we may have difficulty getting that air to really be rising significantly. When it can tap into the shear. And then that's when we get that tornado potential. But the fact that the instability is forecast to be quite low, in fact, in some cases, not a whole lot at all, here in parts of North Alabama is the reason why the tornado potential a little bit more uncertain. But again, sometimes when you have a lot of one thing, it can overcompensate for the lack of something else. And we are going to have plenty of low-level wind shear. So we're going to have to watch very closely with these bands as they come on into the area. As I mentioned, this is not going to be the be-all, end-all just on your Thursday. Let me show you another look here. This is just some other data with future radar using some different model data, kind of showing the same thing. You see that as we head into Thursday, we get this persistent band. This is a little bit different in timing. But again, this has been pretty consistent with a lot of the data, kind of showing the same overall situation, maybe a little bit different in the details, placement of everything, but showing that persistent band lingering through some of Thursday evening, Thursday night, kind of fizzles Friday morning, and then here we go. Into Friday afternoon, we may get another persistent band that develops and kind of hangs in here across the area. And once again, as particularly we hit the warmest part of the day on Friday, wherever this band is, there may be the potential for, again, some isolated severe weather showing up out of it. So that's kind of the overall breakdown. What I want you to know, we're going to be here watching it. We're going to be providing hourly updates on the television side of things, and of course our regular newscast as well through the day tomorrow. So lots of ways that you're going to be able to get weather information on the TV side of things. We'll be posting some updates here on social media as well, and of course on the Way 31 Storm Tracker weather app. That's where you can kind of monitor what the rain is doing, where this heavier band of showers and thunder showers is going to be setting up, because again, where that is where we're going to be watching for two things: where the more significant rain totals are going to be, and where that potential for seeing some spin-up type of tornado activity is going to set up. So that's kind of my spiel. Appreciate you sticking around for all of that. Going to go in here and I'm going to take a look at some questions and see what I can answer. And keep in mind, I wish I had the crystal ball where I could tell you exactly what it's going to do in your neighborhood and on your street. We just don't have that precision. We can just tell you what the overall setup is, how we expect things to change through the day, and really can't get more specific than that until we're actively tracking the heavier downpours, the stronger showers, and the rumbles of thunder out there. So let me kind of take a look and see what we got going on with the comments here.
Specific than that until we're actively tracking the heavier downpours, the stronger showers, and the rumbles of thunder out there. So let me kind of take a look.
Okay. I don't know why the audio suddenly came up, but there we go. Let's see. Going through my Facebook page first, checking the comments here. Hannah commenting, terrified, anything to ease my mind. You know, Hannah, all I can say is knowledge is power, be prepared, have a way to get weather alerts. You know, the chances are this is not going to be a big deal for a lot of us. Yes, it'll be a little windy. Yes, it'll be a little wet. No, it's not necessarily going to be life-threatening for most of us. But again, in some instances, if we get some isolated tornado activity, that of course causes a concern. Again, I'm not expecting these are not going to be the big tornadoes that you think of. You know, I was here for April 27th, 2011. A lot of people that have lived here for a long time, lived through a lot of severe weather, that's the thing they reference. This is not the same sort of thing that we're going to be dealing with. Tropical systems usually do not produce what we call significant tornado activity here across the area. So let me go back in here. Check some other comments. Just a few watching. Appreciate you, everyone tuning in that is here. Yeah, let me check some other comments on the other pages that we've got. So I'm going to head on over to the Way TV page and see what sort of comments we've got going on here. All righty. Just a lot of people on the Way TV Facebook page just checking in from different locations. I see some of you here when I asked at the beginning if you could hear me, commenting that you could. I appreciate that. This is always, you know, when we do this live streaming, we're kind of going through our studio stuff, going through our studio camera, going through our weather computer. I've got the normal mic on that you hear me on when you watch our news. So it's always a question, is everything working when we stream all this live to Facebook? But it looks like everything was. All righty, it doesn't look like we have any specific questions there either. So hopefully that means I did a good job kind of explaining things and we don't have a lot of comments. Again, I wish I could be specific about exactly what we're going to see in any one location, but that's just not the case. I will say it does appear that where this greater tornado threat is going to set up with this band of heavier showers and downpours, probably going to be more around and east of I-65, at least that's what the data suggests. More of some heavy rain prospects showing up out in the shoals, northwest Alabama, through mid to late morning tomorrow. But regardless, everyone's going to be impacted. Pretty well everyone's going to see some rain. How much will kind of vary from place to place. Everyone's going to see windy conditions tomorrow. That's a given. Very few of us will be impacted by a tornado threat. But again, that does remain a concern. All right, well, with that in mind, I am going to go ahead, I think, and wrap things up here. Keep in mind, we will get a new future radar that will come out this evening. In fact, we'll get a lot of new different pieces of weather data from the different computer models that we use, and I'll be checking those out when that information comes in over the next couple hours, just to see if we continue to have this consistent picture that we've had thus far. And of course, I'll be sharing that latest information coming up with you on Way 31 News at 10 o'clock tonight. Again, just stay weather aware, stay safe. We're going to be here watching. We want you to keep an eye on what's going on, have a way to get weather alerts, whether that's a NOAA weather radio or the Way 31 Storm Tracker weather app. And again, we'll be providing you updates 10 o'clock tonight. Meteorologist Grace Anello, first thing tomorrow morning, she'll have the newest info from the Storm Prediction Center, from the National Hurricane Center, new future radar, all that. So just keep in mind we're constantly getting in new information to help you be better prepared for what is going to come tomorrow. Not expecting that this is going to be real high impact sort of event for us, so that's some good news. But again, it's important to stay weather aware. All right, going to wrap this up. Hope you all have a great rest of the evening. Enjoy the calm weather that we've got. Tomorrow will be a whole different story compared to what we've had the last few days. And again, I'll see you again tonight at 10 o'clock with an update on what we are expecting to see from Francine on Thursday.